Coronation Street is set to deliver even darker scenes next week, as Theo Silverton escalates his disturbing behavior and turns his attention toward a new target, Summer Spellman. As the pressure surrounding Theo continues to intensify, the situation begins to spiral further out of control, especially now that Todd Grimshaw has finally managed to break free from his influence, and Summer is actively searching for the truth behind the death of Billy Mayhew. According to insider reports, Theo's presence in Weatherfield has become increasingly unwelcome, with most residents wanting nothing to do with him. Despite this, in his distorted way of thinking, Theo appears to believe that there is still a possible future between himself and Todd, showing just how detached he has become from reality. Although Theo is beginning to feel the weight of guilt and suspicion surrounding Billy's death, it is still not enough to push him into taking responsibility or leaving the area. Instead, he continues to deny accountability and refuses to face the consequences of his actions, raising concerns about how much longer his behavior can continue unchecked. Meanwhile, Carl Webster, who has been wrongly suspected of killing Billy, is determined to get justice and make Theo answer for abandoning Billy in a burning minibus. In an attempt to force Theo into making a mistake, Carl deliberately confronts him in the street, provoking him in the hope that he will react violently and be arrested. While this strategy is clearly dangerous, Carl remains confident that he can push Theo far enough to expose his true nature. Already on edge after a tense encounter with Gary Windass, Theo seeks refuge in the Rover's Return pub, but finds himself unwelcome there as well. Gemma Winter-Brown refuses to serve him, and matters only worsen when Eva Price makes it clear that he is no longer allowed in the establishment following revelations about how he treated Todd. Feeling increasingly isolated and provoked from all sides, Theo's anger begins to build to a breaking point, making his next actions even more unpredictable and dangerous. The situation reaches a frightening climax when Theo corners Summer inside the local shop, where she is left terrified as she witnesses his aggressive temper and unstable behavior up close. In a particularly chilling moment, Theo cruelly taunts Summer by describing how Billy pleaded for his life before dying, deliberately using the traumatic memory to intimidate and emotionally harm her, leaving her deeply shaken and horrified. After the encounter, a distressed Summer turns to George Shuttleworth for comfort and support, recounting the frightening ordeal and explaining how threatened she felt during the confrontation. Hearing about what happened leaves George shocked and angered, prompting him to take action in order to protect both Summer and Todd from further harm. Normally calm and compassionate, George reaches his limit and directly confronts Theo, issuing a stern warning for him to stay away from both Todd and Summer or face serious consequences. However, given everything that has already taken place and Theo's increasingly erratic mindset, it remains uncertain whether he will actually heed the warning or continue to pose a threat to those around him. Coronation Street has aired deeply emotional and tragic scenes involving Todd Grimshaw, as Theo Silverton carries out his most shocking and violent act yet in an early release on ITVX. Sarah Platt is left completely horrified and shaken after Todd appears at her doorstep in a severely beaten and bloodied condition, clearly having suffered a brutal assault. This devastating moment follows growing suspicions raised by Summer Spellman regarding Theo's possible involvement in the death of her father, Billy Mayhew. Viewers will remember that during a catastrophic multi-vehicle crash, Theo deliberately refastened Billy's seatbelt and left him trapped inside a vehicle that later caught fire, ultimately leading to his death. In the aftermath, Theo appeared consumed with guilt and even spoke openly about his wrongdoing prior to Billy's funeral, unaware that Carl Webster was nearby and overheard everything he said. In recent episodes, Carl warned Summer to reconsider her assumptions and look closer to home when she accused him of being responsible for the fatal collision, hinting at Theo's true involvement. Theo had been planning to relocate to Belfast, but when Todd explained that he could not leave immediately because he wanted to support a grieving Summer, Theo reacted in a controlling and dangerous manner by locking him inside a bedroom. The latest episode shows that Todd spent the entire night desperately pleading to be released, highlighting the severity of the situation and Theo's increasing instability. At one moment, Theo emotionally claimed that he loved Todd and could not bear to lose him, but almost instantly contradicted himself by expressing hatred and saying he could not even stand the sight of him, revealing his volatile and unpredictable state of mind. It was only after Sarah became worried about Todd's safety and arrived at the flat that Theo finally gave in and allowed him out, attempting to maintain control over the situation. In an effort to reassure Theo and avoid further conflict, Todd called Sarah and falsely claimed that they were already on their way to Northern Ireland, trying to protect himself from further harm. Meanwhile, Theo pretended to take a shower, but was secretly watching Todd from a distance, while Todd quietly searched the flat for the keys in a desperate attempt to escape, unaware that they had been deliberately hidden. As tension escalated, Todd found himself backing into a corner while an increasingly enraged Theo advanced toward him, creating a terrifying and unavoidable confrontation. Later that night, Sarah confided in Kit Green, expressing deep regret and guilt over feeling that she had not done enough to prevent Todd from leaving with Theo. Her fears were soon realized when the intercom rang, and Todd was heard on the other end, crying out in pain and explaining that he was unable to make it upstairs due to his injuries. Sarah and Kit rushed downstairs, where they found Todd collapsing on the ground in severe agony, confirming that he had been violently attacked and had endured immense suffering. They quickly understood that Todd had lied earlier in order to protect himself from Theo, and Kit immediately went to get a car so they could take him to hospital for urgent treatment. However, in a moment of courage and determination, Todd told Sarah that instead of seeking medical care straight away, he wanted to report everything to the police and finally take action against Theo. The question now remains whether this will mark the long-awaited downfall of Theo Silverton or if there are still more dangerous twists to come in this intense and emotional storyline. Coronation Street spoilers for the upcoming week reveal high-stakes drama, including Todd Grimshaw's desperate escape, a looming downfall for Megan, and Jody Ramsey becoming increasingly unsettled after an unexpected arrival. As tensions rise across Weatherfield, the storyline suggests that several antagonistic figures may finally begin to face the consequences of their actions, with a possible murder plot casting a dark shadow over events. The drama begins to unfold with Carl Webster, who, after witnessing Theo Silverton aggressively confronting Gary Windus, only for Gary to remain calm and refuse to engage, decides to take matters into his own hands. Determined to bring Theo to justice, Carl devises a risky plan to provoke him into committing an act of violence that would lead to his arrest for assault, believing this could finally expose Theo's true nature. The situation quickly escalates when Theo storms into the Rover's Return pub, closely followed by Carl, who continues to push his buttons in an attempt to trigger a reaction.